evening, ladies and gentlemen. The mayor has called the meeting to order. Mayor Roscoe.
Present.
Councilmember Bracken.
Here.
Councilmember Kaplan.
Here.
Councilmember London.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sardinius.
Here.
Councilmember Stoner.
Present.
Councilmember Vasquez.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, we do have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Chad, will you lead us in the pledge?
Let's go. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item will be a special presentation, a special recognition for the under 16 and under 19 Key Biscayne rugby teams for winning their national championship games at the Ruggerfest tournament in North Carolina.
All right, a big hand. All right, let's go down and
You're gonna scrum with that thing?
yeah.
We always do.
Major, our captains under 16 and under 19.
Congratulations.
Captains, congratulations.
I like the rugby rats, that's very good.
Wow.
Nice.
You guys gonna demonstrate a scrum for us?
Yeah.
Let's go.
And this is a special gift for the committee. Thank you again for the support.
Thank you.
It's our jersey. Again, thank you so much for the support.
So, tell us about how these two teams got to go to the nationals.
Well, first of all, the Key Biscayne Rugby, I don't have to use the mic. Well, thank you. Well, first of all, the Key Biscayne Rugby Reds started like 17 years ago. And this is the first time we go with both teams, and both teams win the championship. So we're extremely happy for that. We have competed for the last 4 years. Last year, under 16 was able to win it, but this is the first time both teams win it. So we're so proud of all the boys and girl. I know the girl is also here. As you may know, we also have, in the under 16, we have one of the girls. Also, you know, our coaches are all volunteers, so thanks again to our coaches. Thanks to the parents also. Because
Coaches, come
coaches
on.
and parents also, thank you. And I want to give special thanks to the committee and the mayor. You know, this year we went to the resurface of the pitch in St. Agnes, which is amazing. And last but not least, I know Todd is here.
Todd.
Todd, thank you again. The support is coming from all the teams. Thanks again.
Over 70s league, some of us would like.
Oh yeah, we have an all boys teams. Under 70 would be under 60.
Over 80.
Over 80. We may have. I'm afraid of the scrum at that age, but nevertheless, we can practice that. Thank you.
We'll scrum at Mercy.
Modified scrum.
Yeah.
Let's get everybody in for a picture.
Take a picture. Todd, come on in. All right, Ed, go out.
One to another. That's great. The pressure's on now. We need a softball championship.
I don't know, that's his own.
need a
that's his
softball
own
championship.
t-shirt. No one else
Thank
has
you.
that
Goodbye.
on.
Thank
No
you.
pressure.
Yeah. I'm impressed that you saw that.
Field hockey. Yeah? Nice.
Great culture. Congratulations. Where did you guys play? Charlotte? Charlotte. How was it? Good?
Four? No, come on, Paul. You look so good now. No?
We're volunteers, we don't have to give. Professional guys down there, they have to give. They wanted me to wear my helmets out there.
Madam Clerk, let's,
Rabbi Caroline is not with us this evening. The
Oh,
next item is brief
wait a
comments.
minute. Frank Kaplan is going to lead us in the invocation.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, my, an unaccustomed task.
You're never short of words.
I will invoke what I'm certain Rabbi Caroline, at least thematically, would have introduced by appealing to the source of all goodness and invoking the blessing of wisdom, patience, and all of the things that carry in the word virtue. May we demonstrate that in a way that makes our community proud of us and that enables us to do the best we can for them.
Amen. Thank you. Very good. Good job.
Thank you.
Step straight in there, man.
Next item, brief comments by council.
Yeah, I wanted to say, we had a workshop on stormwater yesterday, and I want to commend everyone. It was a really good job. The ad hoc committee under Mike and Ed and Fernando doing a really good job. It was a good interchange, a good dialogue, trying to get at what we need to do, which is get down to the final. And I want to commend you. You all did excellent, and I think we all learned quite a bit from that back and forth, and that a lot of questions were answered. Anybody else? Okay, Madam Clerk.
Next item is public comments.
Mr. Luis de la Cruz. Okay. All right. All right, let's keep going.
The agenda, approval, deferrals, additions, deletions, substitutions, withdrawals.
I would like to defer, item 8A, and I would ask that we bring that back as a discussion item so we can really get into what that's all about. I have a lot of concerns about that.
Okay.
Are there any other,
Well, you're, for one, taking it off the consent agenda.
Yes.
Okay, and then after that, we can discuss the deferral. Okay, anything else? Okay. On the deferral,
well, that's just the agenda, all the,
There's been a motion to defer. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Yes. Okay, so now there's discussion on the motion to defer on item 8A.
Okay. the reason for my deferral is because I'm sorry, you can't hear me? Yeah, better?
She's talking on the phone.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me, okay. I just have a lot of questions about it. It seems that the resolution is very broad. The issue hasn't come up before council as a discussion item. I have concerns about the Pandora's box that it might open, and I have concerns about losing the Village Green as a passive park during the day when all the teams aren't out there. So,
Motion to defer.
Well, they're ready to present. You want to hear what they have to say?
Do you want to defer? Study it.
I would like it to come back as a discussion item so we can find out where this even came from, why we're
It
there.
now is, it has to be.
But now it's a resolution, so if it passes now, we may have,
Yes,
I just don't think it's appropriate at this point without more background information. That's my opinion. You don't have to vote in favor of the deferral.
I'm all in favor of not having what we call the live torpedo in the water. So I'm happy to defer this and come back and discuss it.
Any other comments on this side? Nope. Okay, defer it is.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any other agenda changes?
Now let's go to special presentation.
All those in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a advisory board annual report presentation, Sustainability Advisory Board.
Good evening, everyone. I was all excited when we pulled up. I see that crowd outside. I thought it was for my report.
We're here. We're here for you. man.
Yes. Okay, good evening, Mayor, council members, manager. Derek Dusoglu, 155 Sunrise Drive. I am the chair of the Sustainability Advisory Board. I would first like to thank Councilmember Bracken for his guidance and support. He has been absolutely fantastic and much appreciated, the assistance that he has offered. We do have one of our board members here, Maria, who's one of our newer members, so thank you for being here. I'm going to run through this real quick. I know a presentation was submitted to you, which was much more extensive than one you're going to see tonight, dives a little more in depth, but I will get straight into it. This shot says quite a bit. We hosted our first annual Sustainability Summit this past November, which was a huge success in my book. We were able to get together 10 different municipalities, and essentially what this was our board counterparts. We find that there's fantastic work being done by the municipalities, but work kind of tends to happen in silos. So the whole idea here was to create this collaborative platform where we could get together, discuss, and synergize on things that do work, struggles that we've been having. There is more on that, but this was a fantastic event, and I look forward to sharing more as the years progress. Some major milestones that we accomplished. I know the new contract is going to be coming out very shortly for the single-family homes for the solid waste. That was a wonderful introduction that was made by one of our board members, Michael Schmale, who introduced the lady from the city of Fort Lauderdale who runs their recycling program, and she had some fantastic insight. She gave our board a presentation at the end of 2024. We then introduced her to council and to village staff, and she's been working diligently with them in order to get that up to speed. We're really excited for what's coming. We did have a fantastic integration with a company called Open Water. They actually sponsored our sustainability summit. We were able to go all aluminum, so we had no waste plastic during the event. They also sponsored our 4th of July parade, and we were able to provide recycling for the aluminum cans for that. And then there's also an article that you'll see in the presentation. And we've also, been working with the Community Foundation to dive a little deeper into the Plastic Free KB initiative, which targets the local businesses and also the restaurants. As you know, there's a little over 40 restaurants, and there's a massive amount of waste that we want to tackle and work with them to create this really robust program to minimize waste. Year in review, we had 13 board meetings. We have one new board member, which is Maria, seated right here. We had 7 special presentations, and again, we were able to engage over 10 municipalities with the work that we're currently doing. I won't get into the details, this is in the presentation, but some of the people that did come and present to us, if you're familiar with Kind Design, they're a local company that's 3D printing live seawalls, which is fantastic. We're really excited about the work they're doing, and if I'm not mistaken, there's several homes that are using that technology here in the Key right now. Native Pathways Project is a local organization spearheaded by children from a school, and their goal is to educate and involve the community in working with xeriscaping and native plants in order to minimize the amount of irrigation that's needed. Debris Free Oceans came and gave a pitch for their zero waste culture approach to minimizing waste streams. 121 Consulting talked about microgrids, and that's a great resource that I highly recommend you look into because the gentleman that owns that company is a Key Biscayne resident. Dave Dobler is the founder of volunteercleanup.org. He's very outspoken and heavy into recycling initiatives. He was also one of the panelists that we had at the summit. Lady Green, who you know provides the recycling for the beach club. We've had several conversations with them about enhancing the efforts of recycling outside of what's offered in single-family homes and doing a more community-based approach. And then Recycled Orchestra, you could see the image above. This group is out of South America, and they introduce musical education for children. And what they do is they create the instruments for this out of recycled content, which is pretty interesting. They also offer opportunities to come and showcase the abilities of these students and the instruments that they've created. So that's something that we can definitely put together. The Sustainability Summit, as I mentioned, we really tackled 3 elements this summit. We focused on best practices and getting things done. That was done by Dave Dobler from Debris Free Oceans, or from Volunteer Cleanup, I'm sorry. Water quality management and conversation, and then recycling, waste contracts, and circularity. I will point out, and you'll see this in the next slide, the Resource Hub was a digital platform that is open to the public that we created to provide access to anything that any of our board counterparts want to share. If it's a video resource, if it's a contract that worked in the favor of the municipality, if it was a TED Talk, anything that they want to add, we are integrating this, and it is live. All of you should have a link. That email went out. If you don't, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to forward that to you. And this is a great resource for these communities to engage and pull together resources and share information publicly and in a centralized location. One other thing that was fantastic is the UMCUCD, which is the the Center for Urban and Community Development. It's a relatively new program run through the University of Miami. One of the gentlemen that was a panelist at our summit is the director of this program. I know he had a wonderful conversation with the mayor and Councilmember Bracken after the summit, and he has offered access to their resources and their expertise for anything that we need related to urban development. I highly recommend taking advantage of that. There's some great programs that they run. They were heavily involved in the Underline, for example. He's a wonderful gentleman. I would be more than happy to facilitate a conversation, but it's definitely something that I would consider. They're in our backyard, and the expertise that they bring to bear is fantastic. Now, let's get into the immediate asks. I have 2 very important things. Back when Councilmember Kaplan was the mayor, he established the Green Committee, which was responsible for creating the sustainability plan for the village. That was from 2013 to 14. I was the chair of that committee, and we had amazing people on there. We developed a plan that covers 9 key strategies, and unfortunately, that document has kind of sat to the wayside. There are elements that we're currently working on there as the SAB. We would like to ask council to please bring that document back and treat it as a living document that the council and staff can continue to integrate, and we can use it to track our progress. We have everything laid out. I've even taken the information out of the document and created a large matrix in order to ease the information and the visibility and the usability. So I would like you to please consider that. The other thing is we're asking for a board budget request for the upcoming year, which is just shy of $20,000. There's something very important that there's several things that we're looking to accomplish with this. Number 1 is the summit that we hosted this year. We're looking to have that budget at $7,500, which of course includes food and beverage, any printed material, anything that we offer to the people that are attending. We want to make sure that we have a robust platform in order to increase engagement for that, so those funds would be dedicated towards the summit. The Waves Workshop is a local organization which comes in and they consult on efficiency optimization for organizations and municipalities, and they are willing to do this workshop for us at a reduced price, which is the $4,000, so that's another thing we'd like you to consider. There is a landscape manual that our board member Jackie Kellogg came across, and what we would like to do is we would like to brand this and customize it to the village and have it be a digital and a physical product that we can pass along to residents, which basically provides an outline of best practices for landscaping. that help to mitigate the use of the need for irrigation and also to help with water runoff. The resource hub upkeep and hosting, 1750. So the resource hub is what I mentioned to you earlier. It's that hosted centralized database of information. There's a lot of work that goes into the upkeep in that. And we just want to make sure that we maintain everything streamlined so people have the access when they need it. And then, of course, development, education, and outreach materials. A lot of that parallels what's happening with the foundation in order to make sure that we have the information in order to push out to the community to really engage them and educate them where we need to be. And then finally, we have several pilot projects that we would really love you to take a look at. There are 6 of them listed here. The total of this is just over $1 million. First and foremost is the resilience pods. If you take a look at the generator that is currently sitting behind the fire station, there's fuel that is needed to run that. There's a maintenance program where that unit has to be turned on every day. One of the things that we would like to look into is replacing that or having an add-on where there is a solar and battery component that has no reliability or dependence on fossil fuels whatsoever. It can completely run off grid. So in case the bridge goes out, there's a shortage of fuel or for whatever reason, critical operations can stay up and running. Another part of that is also a desalination pod. You know, if we limit or if we remove access to water after a storm or a hurricane, we need to be able to give fresh water to our residents. A small 20-foot container can provide up to 20,000 gallons of fresh water per day, and we can run that completely off grid where there is no need for a generator. Second item here is the regenerative zone project. I know local design had provided an initial analysis in order to do one of the areas, which was one of the roundabouts close to the yacht club. We have talked extensively in our board meeting with the members and with Councilmember Bracken, and we would like to revisit that, but relocate this project specific to an area that has more flooding events. We're thinking further down towards the Green Park on Harbor Drive, and this ask of $15,000 includes what they would need in order to do the redevelopment. There's also a fee embedded in there for GIT, which I know you're currently working with, in order to do their analysis to substantiate what's being presented here. The third, school micro farms. We would love to look into the opportunity to provide these for all of the schools in Key Biscayne. These are small little gardens which have a wonderful opportunity to teach the children about about farm to table, and also the possibility of integrating that into some of the things that we can do with the school and the education programs. EMS systems. I don't know how many times I've gone to meetings upstairs in the BZP and I walk into the restroom and the lights are on and the air's like at 65. That's money we're throwing away. So if we can put in a robust EMS system to track and monitor where and how we're spending our utilities, I think it would be a great way to reduce our carbon footprint and save money. Recycling pods, we're looking at several key places throughout the key to put decentralized recycling. So instead of having, obviously you still have through the single family homes and through the condos, but we're looking at three locations within the community to offer material specific recycling services. For example, aluminum, where people can go and they can deposit this aluminum, and that will not be sold to a recycling company. It will go specifically to a company that deals with recycling. And then finally, dune thatching. This is a wonderful opportunity that we came across when doing some research. This is happening in England, and what they're doing is after the holidays and Christmas, they're collecting the Christmas trees and they're burying them in the beachfront in order to assist with erosion. Now, obviously, we're a little limited with space, but we thought this would be a great opportunity to potentially talk to the county and work with the city of Miami over in Crandon, where there's ample beach space, in order to potentially integrate something like this. So instead of mulching, we would have another alternative for using those Christmas trees.
Great. Are you done?
Yes, I am.
Great presentation, by
Thank
the way.
you.
Thank you. I wanted to ask you a question on the sustainability plan.
Sure.
Would you include composting into that when you say waste recycle? Is that, I want to understand the relationship between that and what the residents are doing on composting.
So we have an element there for composting. It's very minimal because, again, this was created 13 years ago, so we were more focused on recycling. One of the ideas, as I mentioned earlier, is to have this become a living document so that we can change and adapt it as needed for the current landscape.
Okay, would you consider adding the
Absolutely.
composting?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. And again, I'll be more than happy to send this out to everybody so you have a fresh copy. Please don't print it. Keep it digital. But yes, definitely.
Okay, well, perhaps, I do have an item, so perhaps I would like to defer it and talk to the sustainability committee.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
The document 13 years ago was intended to be a living document,
Yes,
for sure.
I know. Yes.
Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you,
And
everybody.
you, with your liaison, if you're obviously working very closely with him, and from there, if he wants to bring any of these things forward, he's definitely the right person, or anybody else can bring him, but the liaison makes all the sense in the world.
Beautiful. And
Okay.
please lean on us for whatever you need. We have an amazing board. These people are working their butts off to bring this information. So please use us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
The next presentation is the Education Advisory Board.
I have to follow that act.
Yeah.
Louise.
I smell nepotism
Hey,
here somewhere. I don't know.
Yes. Anyway, I want you to know that he's a graduate of our public high school. So you can see the IB program at Coral Gables. So that shows. So anyway, hello. I got to figure out this steering here. My name is Robert Dusoglu.
He was able to figure it out, so I don't.
Excuse me? Yeah, I'll figure it
Yeah.
out. I'll get Derek. Derek, come on up here. 785 Glen Ridge Road, and I am part of the Educational Advisory Board. This is our annual report. This is our terrific board. We have it, it was just incredible to work with them. We have a principal. We have the person that established It Takes a Village. Laura's here. Also, Dr. Kano, which is university advisor and professor. We have 2 teachers. We have the head of the PTSA, and also our fearless leader, which is Oscar, which has really guided us very well, and he's been involved with education for a long time. And Jessica, I know she's listening on the headphones, so she's kept us communicating not only between ourselves, but also within the community, and she's really pushed that forward, and we really appreciate that. Okay, so accomplishments, what do we do? One of the things is just to, communications was a big issue, and we kept hearing that over and over and over. So you'll see throughout the accomplishments that was many things that involve communications. First of all, the Magnet Showcase was to communicate to the community what happens when my child graduates out of the middle school. Where does he go? Where is he going to go? What are his options? What are their options, and so on. So this was a great showcase. We had over 10 different groups that came, and some of the programs that are right here in Miami are actually nationally recognized programs that are accessible to our residents. So that was a very successful program initiated by Oscar, and the district helped a lot with that. But and I think we're going back again next year, and hopefully even more people will attend, more parents. We had 2 surveys this year, again, communication as a fact. One was a school improvement, which we had 264 responses. That's a lot. I mean, you know, when you try to get something done, it's hard to get. And then we also had a special needs survey, which we had 104 responders, which is also very, very good. Now, from those questionnaires, we started to develop where we were going, what we had to look at, and what we had to think about. So that was, I think, a great success. Let's see, what else? We also launched a pre-K ESE program, and we also had a very large summit that involved special needs and how to integrate it within the schools. So I think overall it was a great school year, a lot of communication. The PTSA was very involved, and I think I was very happy with the result. Okay, next. So this is what our students look like right now. We focused on the K through 8 because this was our biggest alarms that were going off. And I highlighted the red things for Ed, because he told me highlight the red things that are important so I could see them, right? I hope you could see them. No, good. So first of all, we only serve 29% of our population on our K through 8 center. That's teeny. I was surprised to see those numbers. Also, out of the school, we're only operating at 69%, our K through 8 center. So again, we could do a lot more. We can service a lot more residents, and for one reason or another, they're not using our school system, and we could do a lot better with that. If you look at the grades per grade, the red ones that I started highlighting, you could start seeing the problem. At middle school, there's a great exodus. And they go down from 16, 17% or so on, down to 2, 3%. And each year it's getting worse. So this is something that we have to really seriously look at before it sort of dies on the branch. If we don't do something urgently, this is going to be a big problem and be a great loss, I think, for the community that we lose that. I think that's about it. I mean, the amount of children that are in this community, that's what's really, I think it's wonderful. I think it's close to 30% of our population. So, really, so moving on. Okay, the second alarm that went off, our ranking. We used to be number 1 and 2 for our elementary and our junior high. I keep saying junior high school. I think you guys call it middle school. I'm from the Northeast, so junior high school. But anyway, so we were number 1. We're now number 13 and sliding. So that's a big concern. And in the middle school, we were number 2, and we're now 32. So we've been sliding, and this is terrible. And I've talked to a lot of people about this, and we've done a lot of research. I have the testing there. You can see the math proficiency is wonderful, 3 to 5th grade at 90% compared to the state or the district. Then as you get to the 6th to 8th grade, it goes down to 70%. But then if you start looking at the English proficiency, again, we're at middle, around 78%. And for the middle school, I can't quite read that, I think it's 58%. Wow, terrible, right? And the other thing that was very interesting, we're ranked an A school, but so are 64% of the rest of the schools. So what kind of A is that? You know, so that's
Small A.
it's right. So, and then down the science. Look at the science. The science was another very alarming. For the middle school, we're down at 34% performance. Yeah, that was terrible. Okay, everybody got that? Let's talk about the root causes. Why?
Can I just ask you a question?
Yes,
You think
please.
that's because of brain drain in the middle school?
That's definitely part of it. There's leadership, there's programming, there's also funding. We'll get to some of those issues. Yeah, and I'll point all of them out to you. But yeah, definitely the brain drain was a big factor. Okay, so
Probably
moving
worth
on.
Noting that we're not in a isolated subset here. This is happening throughout the state.
Yes. I think a part of the reason, I mean, we almost set up our own, we were part of a victim of our own success, because what we did is we looked at mass and we reinforced it so well. And also the wonderful program that St. Agnes has put together, which is all part of what we've done, that it sort of sucked the air out of the programs at our public school. And now where our focus was with mass and with sports and so on, now we really have to shift our focus and do something urgently with the middle school, definitely the middle school, and so on. Okay, so our competition, I listed theirs there. We do have a Cambridge program here, but the identity is not quite there. It's not like Mass where you know you're going for oceanography or so on. It would be nice to have a specific identity. The district has brought a communications program over, which comes from Doral, but Doral is very strong with communications because of Telemundo and Univision and so on. I think it would be wonderful if we would create our own unique messaging for our school, whether it's sustainability or, you know, IB program or whatever. So the performance for the testing, terrible. Staffing, let me talk about the staffing. We're ranked number 50 in how we compensate our teachers in the nation. Number 50. And student investment, around $12,000 per year. We're ranked bottom 10 in the nation of how much we invest in our students. So big problem. Facilities, you know, we could do a lot better. It's the STEAM lab, the science, you saw the science rankings. We don't have a STEAM lab. They're complaining they don't have updated computers and they don't have enough computers for testing. So there's a lot of things that we need to do there. And also the aesthetics and it really needs to be modernized. And then the funding death spiral is what you spoke to me, Councilman Stoner, which is because our population is reducing, then the funding that comes from the district is less and less and less, and it's just a spiral that just gets worse and worse, okay? We do have some strengths. Obviously, the real estate that we own there, the proximity, the safe community that we have. I mean, this is one of the safest areas in all of Miami. We have the new principal. I have high hopes for her, and she's been very responsive, which is really wonderful. I know we've had problems with that. The district looks like they're interested in doing something with us. They did bring that communications program, but I think we could go a lot further. There's a available investment potential, so we could do a lot regarding investing in this program. We need to do a lot. If we don't do something, then it'll just, and obviously strong village identity and pride. So our recommendations, you know, we think the village has to get engaged with this. The board is not enough. It's not enough. Just the way we did with MAST, just the way we did with sports, just the way we're doing with storm drainage, just the way we fix everything and we do it well. And I think it's time to really look at our education system and see what can be done. And get not only the village itself, but also the community, the businesses, the parents, get everybody engaged. Everybody's ready, it's ripe. It just needs to be picked. It needs some good leadership, I think, and we could really do some things. I have some short, mid, and long-term goals. We need to get staffing in there. We need to get some aids for the classrooms. We need to get a funding vehicle to be able to fund a higher education program. And so on, and you could read those at your leisure. And that's about my whole report. So are there any questions? One last thing, I really want to call to the council to action, to really look at this seriously, because it is really important. It affects everything, our real estate values, our community, it affects everything, so that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your report.
My pleasure.
Comments or questions?
I'll leave my comments for my item later on.
I'll wait for Oscar's.
One thing seems noticeable in a positive way. The PTSA seems to be vibrant and, more so than historically. Is that?
That's been my experience when I asked for information or data, or that they were all over it. It's been a really wonderful experience with them. So,
Okay.
And by the way, our next board meeting is actually at the school, and it's open to the public, where we're going to walk around and see what the facilities look like and what they need, and look at where this STEAM lab could go, and the computer lab and so on. So the upgrades that we should be happening. So,
Robert, I thought when the mask thing happened last year, that Frank and Oscar and Raquel Regalado were talking about the possibility of bringing some of those masked classes back here? Is that still, or starting a different program?
It was, well, part of that, I was gonna cover that later.
Okay.
But yes, there were some ideas thrown out there. One of them was some kind of collaboration with magnet-style schooling to be able to come to the school. Instead, the district came with a program that is actually a magnet program, but a watered-down version of that program, as a pilot to start it here, and it includes digital storytelling, communications, and it's going to be a great program. It's going to be focused on the middle school. But I think the problem here is a holistic problem. It's a challenge for the entire school, and I think we have a pretty good plan. We have a great board. We have an incredible principal. The Miami-Dade County Public School System is working hand in hand with us, so I see a lot of great momentum. And I'll cover a little bit of it later, too.
Sorry to.
No worries.
Okay,
thank you, sir.
thank you for your
Excellent.
presentation.
Thank you, Robert.
The next item is a presentation of a proclamation for Flood Awareness Week.
Okay.
Which member of the DeZuclo family is going to present this?
Which member?
We issued a proclamation for Flood Awareness Week.
It's, may you
And-
have it.
Yeah, I think everyone knows that we're supporting it.
Okay. The next item is a pervious impervious roadway comparison presented by Kimley Horn.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. This is regarding some information that you all requested on pervious and impervious materials. We've contracted Kimley Horn to give the presentation and the information that you guys requested. Let me bring it up.
Good evening, Stefano Viola with Kimley Horner Associates, 8201 Peters Road, Plantation, Florida. As Chris mentioned, giving a presentation, pervious versus non-pervious pavements. We're going to look at the technical and cost-benefit comparison, kind of keeping it more specific to Key Biscayne. So we're kind of focusing more on this area, not a holistic, but dive in on any point you want. So introduction, I mean, the reason why we typically go to the pervious pavement is impacts on stormwater. Then we have to look at things. This has been, I don't want to call it a newer technology anymore. At this point, we started rolling it out. Now we're starting to see the pros and cons of the pervious material. So that's kind of what we're focused on. There's life cycle, there's environmental compliance, and then obviously the pavement performance. That's kind of where you'll see a lot of this presentation go toward is now we're seeing, we've always known it benefits stormwater because obviously it absorbs water, but we are seeing that it is supposed to be a pavement as well. So that is where we'll focus on, that we're seeing sometimes that's where it has some deficiencies or some lack of stability, that we now have the pros and cons between pervious and non-pervious pavement. So in looking at pervious pavement, there's obviously now pervious concrete, pervious asphalt, permeable aggregate pavement, kind of like the stone rock system, or then pervious pavers, which would be that grid cellular pervious system. And then you obviously have the counterpart, which is the non-pervious concrete, asphalt, pavers, and composite pavement, which is asphalt and concrete kind of mix. What makes the pervious pavement pervious? It allows the water to absorb, getting down into the aquifer, but getting down into the soils. That is the porousness of that is what makes it a pervious material. So when we talk about concrete, they have some higher aggregates and therefore the water can absorb. Same with the asphalt, but that same token of allowing water to absorb into the system is where we will focus, because it does create a less strengthful material in the foundation. So the differences from structural, pervious allows infiltration to the stone reservoir, non-pervious does not. You have to run that off into a stormwater system, into a swale system. It will not absorb into the pavement. Performance, pervious reduces the runoff. Obviously, you don't have to introduce stormwater infrastructure. You can kind of minimize your infrastructure and have it absorb right into the aquifer. Flooding treatment and costs, and then non-pervious, it needs that drainage infrastructure. The maintenance, this is the part where it's really, we're seeing a little uptick. Pervious pavement needs if you want it to operate as you design it, you need to have vacuum clog prevention, because that water is taking in fines, and those fines start to build up within that system. So if you don't take them back out, they'll clog the system, and essentially pervious can become impervious if not maintained properly. Non-pervious, you'll crack seal, asphalt, you want to make sure that you seal those cracks so you don't get water intrusion causing the failure. Same with concrete. Then you can overlay and then drainage maintenance. And then the life cycle costs. Pervious does have a higher initial cost and maintenance cost, where non-pervious may have a lower initial and lower maintenance costs. As we specifically are speaking about stormwater, pavement, making sure that it lasts the test of time of what you're shooting for. Here are some examples. The traditional pavement, the water will just hit the top and then have to be, flowing to an area where they'll be collected into a stormwater infrastructure system. Permeable pavement, it will absorb. As we speak about Key Biscayne, your water table in this area is high. So, you start having that water get in there and it can create voids underneath the system because it will wash it out. So that's something we focus on. The pervious pavers, you can see on that picture, there's larger gaps. So depending on where you're at, we can have ADA deficiencies and things of that nature, because heels and other elements can kind of wheelchairs, canes, they can get stuck in those areas. So that's one of the things we look at for ADA compliance. And then the asphalt and the concrete, you can kind of see in that bottom picture. Aesthetically looking, you really can't tell the difference, to normally, but there is some additional areas where fines can get in there. And then here's some more examples of this, the water absorbing and getting into the underground material, the dirt, the aquifer. Obviously, asphalt pavement does not get in. Nature, the grass, it does get into that system. Pervious pavers or pervious pavements allow the water to get down into the aquifer. Now we'll go on some expected cost to install. Cost to install is per square foot. So material of the asphalt, permeable, $7 to $15 a square foot. Non-permeable, $4 to $12 a square foot. So you can see a slight uptick for the pervious versus non-pervious. And concrete, 8 to 20 or 4 to 15. Aggregate pavement, 8 to 15, 11 to 17. And then gravel or grids, 4 to 12. There's really not a non-permeable gravel or grid system. And then the permeable surface required, as I mentioned earlier, cost for installing, and I'm going to get into maintenance. When I focus on the maintenance on the next slide, I just wanted the difference. That's the maintenance of making sure it stays a pavement that you can drive on or walk on. That's not the maintenance to clean it. There is no maintenance cost for non-pervious to absorb or make it a drainage system. That is specifically to pervious pavement. So that bottom cost of permeable surface requiring vacuuming or pressure washing, 25 to 50 cents a square foot, that is specifically to pervious pavement. We don't have one for non-pervious because you don't need to do that maintenance on them. And then in contrast, obviously non-permeable asphalt often requires resealing or patching after 5 to 10 years. We would recommend, depending on the landscape coverage, depending on the amount of soils in the area, vacuuming probably yearly, sometimes more. Give an example, Miami Lakes, they have that high canopy area. Just for their stormwater system, we're recommending cleaning that twice a year. Or if you're in an area that doesn't have trees, we might say once every 2 to 3 years. So again, for the pervious pavement, we're recommending that you clean it every year, if not twice, depending on the area. And then we'll jump into expected cost to maintain it. For asphalt, for permeable, 20 to 30-year life cycle, 70 cents to square foot, again, to maintain it as a pavement surface so that you can drive on it, walk on it, so you don't have any failures. We're in the non-permeable, about the same life cycle, 20 to 30 years, but a slight less requirement of maintenance for it to stay a drivable surface. And then concrete, 25 to 40 years for the pervious pavement or pervious concrete, 30 to 50 years. So obviously the concrete has a little bit longer lifestyle when it's non-pervious. And then you can see the cost for maintenance slightly higher for the pervious systems. Then the aggregate pavement, that's kind of an indefinite lifespan. It's really up to how you maintain it. If you continue to put the new rock in, it can be washed out. So it's a little harder to give you a life cycle on it. It really is user use and then how often you're maintaining it. Whereas in non-permeable, it's 40 to 60 years. And then gravel grids, 20 to 40 years. And there is no counterpart for the non-pervious. And so those would be the cost to maintain it, again, as a pavement system. We went farther and did a case study. Specifically, this is the Village Hall parking lot. It's about 16,000 square feet. So we looked at this as an option between pervious and non-pervious. Expected installation cost for that 16,000 square foot parking lot, asphalt, we would estimate between $160,000 to $280,000 to install an asphalt system, whereas for pervious, and then for non-pervious, it'd be 95 to 180,000 square feet. So you can kind of see the cost is slightly higher for the non-pervious system. And then for the concrete, 190 to 380, or versus 120 to 260 for pervious versus non-pervious. So again, for the pervious systems, you'll see a higher cost to install. Yes, sir.
Is this including the sub-base? So-
Yes.
Okay, so
It's a
these
full
numbers are all
system.
including the sub-base?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So, I
and
mean,
the
we're
numbers-
essentially,
And the numbers that you have in the previous slides are all including the sub-base as well?
yes, sir.
Okay.
So kind of going from the sub-base lime rock, which you would call, and then the concrete, pervious, or asphalt, whatever you're doing. Yes, it's a full section.
Okay.
And then the expected lifetime with a 30-year with the maintenance costs. Again, just to emphasize, that is for the maintenance of keeping it as a drivable surface. It's not the vacuuming and keeping it as a stormwater system. Asphalt would be $336,000 for pervious versus $288,000 for non-pervious asphalt. And then concrete, $240,000 versus around $200,000. So that's, again, to maintain them, specifically if you're looking at the Village Hall parking lot. And then based on a 30-year life cycle, this is kind of summarizing everything you saw on that last slide, but the part on the bottom of the break-even threshold for pervious pavement to be cost neutral over its life cycle, it must offset. So, and those costs earlier that I gave you right now on the previous slide, these are not including any stormwater infrastructure. This is just that pavement. So obviously for the non-pervious, you would have a cost to put in stormwater infrastructure to make sure the stormwater is routed somewhere. That is very specific to each site, areas like that. So we don't have the cost. This is just pavement versus pavement. So again, for that break-even threshold, it must offset that stormwater requirement if you need infrastructure. If you go with a pervious system, you don't need the infrastructure. Therefore, the cost can kind of negate itself, and they'll be about equal. But typically, what we're seeing for that is for the smaller sites, and that's kind of appropriate applications. Small to medium parking lots, pedestrian corridors, plazas, shared use paths. That's where we see the pervious system being a more cost-effective, because now, for example, in the small and medium parking lots, that's not a lot of stormwater infrastructure that you're saving on, but you are saving that. As it gets into larger, it's just you need a stormwater infrastructure system that can handle that. Pedestrian corridors, you have that adjacent area that you can kind of discharge to. So if that water is backing up, you still have some grass area to absorb it, and then it has that underground system. Plazas, shared use paths. What we are seeing with the pervious systems now is that larger vehicles, heavy equipment on them, they start to kind of deteriorate because water is being introduced in the bottom and it's kind of washing out that subgrade system. So on lower traffic areas, less weight, you don't see that kind of absorb through. But when you are heavy trafficked areas, heavy semi trucks, moving trucks, doing serial turn movements, you'll start seeing those failures, and that just kind of is a piece of maintenance that has to be tracked, continuously tracked.
Is that applicable to both the concrete and the asphalt?
Yes, for the
For the same-
concrete.
For the same reason?
Same reason. Yeah, it's just introducing water into the compacted. Normally, we compact that to take that weight. I mean, if asphalt actually has no bearing, I shouldn't say no, has very low bearing capacity. We're expecting the underlay to take that bearing capacity. So that's for pervious or non-pervious. Concrete has a lot more of that, but when you introduce the pervious, as I mentioned earlier, the voids are there, so it's not as strong. It's meant to take the water in, and so therefore it does wash out that area. And the larger vehicles or the larger used areas, you'll see some failures. Yeah.
We have some, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just, are you done?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, go ahead, Fernando.
Sure.
I got a question. So you're probably, Chris has probably mentioned to you, we're getting ready to redo Harbor Drive. There's a lot of conversation about Harbor Drive. We've got flooding issues in Harbor Drive, but I think what's important for the public to understand is that we're remilling that road, okay? So we're not taking that down to the sub-base. So this type of product going on to an existing asphalt space is really not pervious materials, not really bringing any value because we're putting it on top of a non-pervious barrier. So trying to set that on top is not really going to bring any value. So we would have to literally take the entire road out, redo the sub-base, and then put a new road in to get the value of that pervious material.
That is completely accurate, yes.
But at the same time, you're not recommending this for roads.
I would not recommend it for a road that's heavily used. Again, we might put an area in a cul-de-sac that gets, 4 homes, and that's all it's going to see. But again, you still run the risk over time. Moving trucks will show up and things of that nature. I still wouldn't, but less used areas, we are seeing the benefits. Just higher trafficked areas, we're seeing failures exposed earlier.
With the amount of construction that's going on Key Biscayne, where we have two principal roads going in and out, one being Harbor, one being Crandon, we're running concrete trucks down these roads on a routine basis. You would not recommend the use of this products?
No, sir.
Okay.
Not in the drivable surface areas. Sidewalks, adjacent, great, but not in the drivable areas, no.
I think that's been kind of like this.
The examples we've discussed would be like the CVS parking lot or the arcade parking lot.
Yeah, the
Just
parking
to-
lots make a lot more sense because you can maintain them much easier and you can control all the vehicles going on in the parking lot. But our roads, you can't control them at all.
What about private driveways? I know that's not what we're talking about right
Well,
now,
that's
but,
part of this low use space, right?
Right.
Private driveways make a lot of sense.
They do. Yeah, private driveways, no issues. Just not to scare you, but what we have seen in some areas, kind of like Key Biscayne or some of the lower areas, during like king tides or when you'll see the water come through the pavement the other direction. And so, again, I'm not trying to scare you away, but there is some negatives that can be in a low-lying area where the water table is high. Pervious or non-pervious pavement will push that water and will stay underneath and you won't see it. You'll still have the failures underneath. Don't get me wrong. I mean, when it comes to, it impacts you right then and there. It impacts both systems when the
Right.
water is underneath the system.
Yeah, I think that's been kind of like the standard understanding of pavement, of pervious pavement, that just as the water works its way down, it works its way up. Capillary effect, you have pores, water's going to want to find its way up, right? So you say anything above HS 20 or that type of load would not be something appropriate.
I would not recommend it unless you want to incur that maintenance. You would be maintaining
But is
it.
there any specific rating? I mean, because you're saying parking lots, but
Parking lots, because they won't see, so the rating is, so the load that you say is fine on pervious pavement, if it sees it once a month, once every, it's just the constant
right.
introduction to those heavier trucks is where you'll start seeing those failures, because those areas that are washing underneath, they won't be exposed as much on a regular system. A pervious concrete system can hold the load right on it, and you won't see those washouts that are occurring underneath until you start introducing the heavy vehicles on a regular basis, and then they'll start to cause the failures.
And on the maintenance, you mentioned that it requires maintenance. The question is, how long until really it just becomes an obsolete thing? Because you really can't get through every pore and clean that out. And I think it's important for people to understand that although you can maintain it, there's a curve of degradation of that particular impervious pavement that you can only do so much with that type of maintenance, right?
That, I'll honestly tell you, we don't even have data, because I've yet to find a system where anyone's maintaining it to a level that you can see where it stops becoming useful, because
So we'll-
Essentially, they're just not using it, it's becoming non-useful because no maintenance.
So, just one last question. What would you say would be the average life cycle of this type of application?
So I'll give an example of a project in Plantation where they put pervious pavers for an entire parking lot for like a mall. The pervious pavers started failing within a year and a half. Substantial failures within a year and a half that they're now looking to remove the pervious paver. Or what ends up happening, they'll come back and grout the gaps between the pervious pavers and they become impervious pavers with the failures underneath kind of almost being hidden.
But was this a sandset system that you're talking about? Yeah.
Sandset. Yep, with the larger gaps between them and, yep.
That's not particularly very practical for a parking lot in the first place. So
I-
it probably wasn't the best design in the beginning.
Correct.
Yeah. We have a lot of sidewalks here, and this application would be reasonable for a sidewalk application, correct? So when
100%.
we're redoing our sidewalks, this would be something we could consider to benefit. Okay.
That is correct.
Last thing, you've probably seen the roundabouts and things that come into the area, and you've seen the structural failures we've had on those roundabouts. So if we would try to use a pervious system in that same space in a low-volume street, would that application make sense to you? Or, because our biggest challenge in the village is we have a lot of construction going on, and we have very large trucks rolling down the roads. I mean, to the point where there's literally a house on every corner that's getting teared down. And we have a lot of people that are concerned that we're not using pervious material in the streets. So we want to make sure that people understand what our goals are. So if you're recommending and saying that these are not appropriate in these type of applications, then we should probably let the pressure off on Chris a little bit, that this material doesn't make the right application, but we could focus on areas that we could use that.
Correct.
Which would be sidewalks. Chris, why don't you jump in, man? Because I've been a huge proponent on
Let me-
pushing this stuff, and I want to make sure we're putting it in the right place.
Yes, absolutely. The right place, the right material for the right place. In other words, when we're talking about sidewalks though, what we're doing here now with sidewalks is more of maintenance and replacing 2, 3, 4 flags here and there. The benefit would be on long runs. If we can get, say, 100 feet, linear feet of sidewalk, yes, it would be a great application. But for 4 feet, it
When
would
we're
be,
redoing Fernwood, there may be an application.
it might be when we have long stretches of sidewalk, yes.
We have one example now. It's by Harbor Park, I think. There's a stretch that's pretty small. How well is that working? You know what I'm talking about?
No. We have pervious concrete.
I believe we have a sample stretch that's a short distance by Harbor Park. I
If he
think
doesn't know
that's
about it, we're not maintaining it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm unaware of that section. Was it with the Safe Routes to School area that,
I think so.
yeah, okay. I'll look into it and I'll let you know how it's working.
Okay, thank you very much. That's
Thank you.
good information. But we've got miles to go before we sleep. Madam Clerk.
Yes, I'm sorry. The next item is a second reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending Section 2-82, Purchasing Limitations, Competitive Bidding of Chapter 2 of the Village Code of Ordinances relating to competitive bidding thresholds, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Moving second, the item is properly before us. Public hearing is required. Public hearing is now open on 9A. Seeing no one come forward, public hearing is now closed. Questions? I think we dealt with them last time.
Mayor, just for the record, this is the item that's been reconsidered by the council on second reading, that you guys voted to move it to this meeting for a reconsideration.
Okay. On second reading or on first reading?
Yes, it's been reconsidered on, it was the second reading of the ordinance that was
Second
being
reading.
reconsidered.
Okay,
Councilmember Lenda's not with us at the moment. Vice Mayor Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
yes?
Councilmember Bracken?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted on second reading. The next item is a second reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending Section 25-31, Business Tax Schedule of Chapter 25 of the Village Code of Ordinances to increase the business tax receipt schedule rates, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflicts, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Move second, items properly before us. This item requires public hearing. Public hearing is now open on 9B. Seeing no one come forward, public hearing is now closed. Discussion on the item? Madam Clerk?
Vice Mayor Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted on second reading. The next item is a second reading of an ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, amending ordinance number 2025-15, which adopted the budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 by revising the 2025-2026 fiscal year budget, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Counselor, the two of them go together. Should we do both of them at the same time?
Item 9C and item 9D.
Yeah.
You could read them both at the same time, and have separate votes on both, if you'd like.
Okay.
Since it's an ordinance, you need a roll call on both of them. Correct?
Okay, no problem.
Correct, Jocelyn? It's an ordinance, yes. So if you want to read the title for the second one, you can hear them both at the same time.
A capital project authorizing ordinance of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving change orders for the Building, Zoning, and Planning BCP office renovation project relating to the Building Department Customer Services area in an amount not to exceed $68,813.97 for a total project cost not to exceed $516,930.46, authorizing the expenditure of additional funds for the project, providing for implementation, and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank you.
Moved second. Okay.
Mayor, for the benefit of the public, you'll have a public hearing, one public hearing then on 9C and 9D together?
That's correct.
Okay.
Public hearing is open on 9C and 9D. Come on to the podium.
Cecile Sanchez, 260 Cypress Drive. I remember when we had an issue that you had like $1 million in building and zoning coffers, and it was over the limit, and you had to kind of use it. Is that what is happening now? Could you explain?
Yeah, we'll have Jeremy explain what's going on there.
600, I mean, I can show you a few places that need TLC in the village's building. I know you're supposed to use it, I guess, in building and zoning. Is there any way that we can change this, that if there's excess money, which is wonderful, that it could be used in places that really need it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We wish it were true, but that's state law, but we'll explain to you. Go ahead.
Good evening, Jeremy Karras-Cogger, Building Zoning Planning Director. It is in fact a dedicated fund that is, the fund comes from the building fees and can only be spent on building department resources and services of providing, everything we need for the Florida Building Code. So in this case, the additional expenses because we're rewiring and doing improvements to primarily rewiring and doing improvements to the server room which actually does benefit more than the building department because we're going to have a really good.
Okay, but
location.
talk a little bit about why you're doing the remodeling and what it is that we're doing that
Yeah.
required
So
this.
big picture, when we switched from paper plans review to electronic plans review, we did two things. We freed up a lot of space, which was paper storage, and we did not have a good way to meet with the public to review their electronic plans short of bringing them to one of our reviewers' desks, which there's security concerns sometimes, there's issues with that. So the two big amenities that we're adding here are two rooms to review electronic plans that are set up properly for it, and we can do more remote work that way too.
Okay, and to the point, this is good use of this funds, but should we have a surplus, we are required to do something about it, and that would be, we would have to lower the fees, or
Correct.
we would have to.
Yeah, we're limited by state laws to how much of a surplus we have. We want to be close to that maximum because of what we've seen happen in emergencies in other communities where they've had to tap into that fund in post-hurricanes.
Okay. Any questions?
I just have a general comment.
Go ahead.
And that is, I really think we as a council should consider is a position at some point in the near future for construction management, rather than have the department heads leading this effort. I think it would be more efficient, it would be more comprehensive, and I think in the long run, it would serve us much better and take some of the burden off of people whose primary focus is not construction management. So that's just a general comment.
Thank you. Okay.
I would support that, Nancy.
All right, so let's take 9C first, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Stoner?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Sardinius. The ordinance is adopted on second reading. The next item, 9D, Councilmember Vasquez?
Yes.
Mayor Roscoe?
Yes.
Councilmember Bracken?
Yes.
Councilmember Kaplan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Sardinius?
Yes.
Councilmember Stoner?
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted on second reading. The next item, excuse me, is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, selecting Barry Dunn, McNeil, and Parker LLC for the Key Biscayne Community Center Assessment Audit and Feasibility Study in an amount not to exceed $210,100, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Thank
Move
you.
second. Items properly before us.
The memo says $215,100.
Yeah, it's different in $5,000. Good catch.
Todd, what do you got?
Yes, sir. 215 is the correct number. We'll make that modification.
215,100, right?
Yes, sir.
Consensus of council to amend the dollar amount. Thank you.
Okay. You want to tell us
Sure.
why we're doing this?
Sure. This is for a assessment, operational audit, feasibility study of our community center. The purpose is to provide the village with a data-driven evaluation of our facility, its operations, programming, and our financial model, to guide future discussions, including that of renovation versus expansion of our community center. Importantly, it also studies what's going to be added with the library and to make sure that we're complementary and we don't have similar facilities and our programming matches there as well. We issued the RFP In November, we received 3 proposals. We had a multi-departmental team evaluate all the proposals. The evaluation committee made a recommendation with Barry Dunn. The study will be conducted over 10 months. And like I said, it's a facility, will include a facility assessment, a lot of community engagement, financial modeling, and a recommendation for our long-term plans with the community center. And I will say that we love our community center, and a lot of the reasons why it's good is because we did a lot of this before we built it. We had a lot of community engagement. We did community surveys. We had Ballard and King as a consultant. We worked through, I can't tell you how many different floor plans with Curry and Associates, who is going to be part of this team. The people that built the community center and that designed the remodels and expansions is part of their team. So they're hitting the ground at speed.
We opened the community center in 2004. Okay.
Yeah, so it's been serving the community for
It's
22
been
years now.
20 plus years. And this is the thing that sometimes we get hammered on. Well, you should have been thinking about this and planning ahead. Well, I think that this might be an opportune
Joe, we have
moment.
it, we have it in the budget, so we've already thought about this.
Yeah.
We're just going through the approval process.
This
Yep.
was- I'm sorry, I don't want to
Go
interrupt.
ahead, go ahead.
This was part of this council strategic plan when we met, so we're just moving forward on what our plan was. And I think it's very interesting just for the public to understand why it's so important to have these companies involved. Steve told me, and I think it's really interesting, when designing this, or at some point in the history of the community center, some people were pushing for squash courts, is that what you said?
Racquetball.
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 And that's just not a demand anymore, and we could have devoted an enormous amount of space and cost to something that's really would not have been used. And so it's very valuable to have this study so we plan appropriately.
And to follow up, 20 years ago, there was no pickleball.
Right.
And even to add to that, I think the original plan for the community center was bigger.
Yeah.
It was made smaller, and so there was additional studies to reconfigure the entire.
Yeah, I went through that. They spent $233 million to redo the pans, to shrink the building by 10%, only to come back to add that 10% at a cost of $1.8 million 10 years later. So it gives you an example when you,
How important this is.
yeah, when you try to shrink things or decrease their scope by a little bit, sometimes in the long run, you end up paying a lot more.
Right. Penny wise and pound foolish, so. that's
Put a
great.
plug in for the over 70 rugby team.
You got it. I don't know if our liability will cover it.
That requires over 80. Remember, Frank.
Hey, Mayor, if I could add.
Let's be all inclusive here.
Because Todd won't do this, but look, we get phone calls all the time about our community center and how we run it and how we do what we do.
Yep.
It's one of the, gems of the county, but it's looking its age, right? It really does need a facelift. It needs to be modified. We have to look at new programming. And this is what Todd's really trying to do here, is how do we take this into the next 20 years? He does it well, but we got to give him the facility to make sure he continues to do it as well as he does and do it better in the future.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking in some of our meetings, spinning was all the rage when we built this. Spinning's down. There wasn't TRX, there wasn't HIT training. It was more equipment-based. I mean, and that's just in the fitness area. Across the board, things have changed that need to be changed and addressed in the building's configuration.
When we did the first community center, I don't think it had the involvement of the seniors as much as it's turned out to be. A very, very popular place.
Extremely popular. We had Roxy on board at that point. We had started the senior programs, but really what took the senior programs to the next level was the community center, having that facility. And that's how they've really flourished over the years. And the expansion space that were constructed was specifically for senior programming.
And also, we have a lot of programs for the disabled that,
We're
that we're,
working,
yeah,
we're
that we're
working with the
using that space.
Disability Advisory Board. It takes a village. We look forward to our event coming up soon, the family-friendly day. But yeah,
Joe, I think it's important to make sure that the community understands that this money's already been budgeted, so this is not something that we're just going to the coffers and grabbing money out and spending it willy-nilly. This is already in the budget, so we're just going through the process because of state ordinance to release the funds from the budget effectively. So,
Yeah. And I would just like to thank Lisa from Barry Dunn for being here and their great presentation, and we're very excited to be working with them on this project.
Right.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a capital project authorizing resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, authorizing the village manager to issue a work order to the Stout Group LLC for the replacement of traffic calming devices in an amount not to exceed $248,385 and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Moving second, Mr.
you.
Miranda?
Mayor, this item came before you a couple months back. It was deferred, waiting on the presentation you heard earlier about pervious, impervious, and the right material for the right locations. We are looking to replace 15 of our speed tables that are currently constructed in brick pavers, and they are failing. We see a lot of failures in them. They also were not constructed properly per the design that Miami-Dade County requires. I passed out a moment ago, there's what our traffic calming devices would be required, and also the second page will show you what Dade County's proper design of a traffic calming device would look like, or a speed table. Currently, we replaced 3 of these speed tables on Island Drive. They were done in asphalt. We are looking to do the same thing. We're going to replace them in asphalt. We have a template to match that exact design for Miami-Dade County. And the last page, you see some artistic designs. That is a thermoplastic paint marking that we're looking to try and put on the speed tables to brighten them up and bring them more in line with what we currently see as brick pavers, but it's going to be done with thermoplastic paint.
Okay.
Would that get rid of the multiple signs?
The signs won't go away. Actually, if you look at the design for Dade County, they require a speed hump ahead, or it doesn't say table, it says hump, but speed hump ahead, one at the hump in each direction. So that's all it takes. 2 signs in each direction.
I just groaned audibly.
Chris, just for the public, can you
Yes.
go through again the fact that we're putting this on existing surface? So if we put impervious material on top of non-pervious material, we're not benefiting the process.
That is correct. This asphalt will be laid on top of existing asphalt. The base underneath it is not being removed. It's still going to be an 8-inch lime rock base, so we're just layering on top of it with impervious material.
So just I just want to make sure the community understands, if we would put impervious material on top of this space, it wouldn't do anything.
It wouldn't do anything.
Bring
at
no
all.
value to the table.
Correct. And it wouldn't be cost effective for such a small area.
Thanks.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
The next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, selecting RAE All Day LLC for the village's youth lacrosse program, providing for authorization and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, I'll be recusing myself from this item. As I have a
Okay.
Professional relationship with the vendor.
You want to,
I need a first and a second.
I'll move it.
We're all on the motion?
Thank
I
you.
think, yeah, for the record, Councilmember Sardinas has recused himself, and he's given the proper paperwork to the clerk already, correct? Okay.
okay. Todd?
Tense.
In October, we issued RFP 2025-06 for lacrosse management services. We received 2 proposals. We created an evaluation committee with members of our staff and 2 members from the Athletics Advisory Board to review those proposals. We review and rank them, and we recommend proceeding with RAE All Day to manage and facilitate the village's lacrosse program.
Okay. And this, the lacrosse program already existed, where this is just putting it out to bid?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As we periodically do with, it started, it got bigger, and now we thought it was time to go out to bid.
How many kids have you got participating?
Right now, just a couple, but we're hoping to grow the
To build
program.
it up?
Yeah,
The only problem is that this guy went to Duke, right?
that might be a problem for some of the people at the dais.
I played at Hobart, so that's why.
As long as it's ACC, we're good.
Okay.
Is there hope of a girls' team?
Absolutely.
Okay, I like that.
No, that was among staff and the athletic advisory board members. That was one of the things we spent a lot of time on.
Requirements, yeah.
And they brought a lot of excitement to developing a girls' program here on Key Biscayne. And thankfully, we had a Division I girls lacrosse player on our evaluation committee. So that always
And
helps.
that was?
Colleen.
Yeah.
So she brought a lot of knowledge about the difference of the sports, how they're played, to the other board members that weren't familiar with lacrosse. So that was helpful. We appreciate it.
Fantastic.
I'm ready to vote for my all-time favorite sport.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is a resolution of the Village Council of the Village of Key Biscayne, Florida, approving and directing the village manager to proceed with co-compliance enforcement goals to improve swales in the village and providing for an effective date.
Move.
Second.
Second.
Moved
you.
second that item properly before us. Mr. Jeremy?
Good evening. So this resolution is essentially for us to act on some of the instructions that we discussed during this whale management workshop for the benefit of those who weren't there. There are certain safety items that we're really going to focus on that include, there's a mandated 3-foot clear zone that is next to the asphalt, and that should be 100% free of any vertical obstructions. So we're going to be acting on that pretty quickly. The other items are that within the entirety of the swale, there should only be landscape materials. So that is open to interpretation somewhat. I think the most notable examples are that we would not include any plastic reflectors in those, not anything you would typically see in a garden. The posts with little ropes or chains, my interpretation, and I am not dogmatic about this, I am open to direction from the council on this. My interpretation is that those are no more or less obstructive than boulders, which are explicitly allowed in the code. So again, outside of the 3-foot clear zone, my interpretation would be to allow the posts with the little ropes.
100% against those posts and rope. I think that tells people don't park here. And that's not the function of, that's not one of the functions of our swales. And so I would really have a problem with that.
I support Joe in that position. I don't care for them either. I think they're dangerous.
Yeah.
Is there any way we can get rid of the boulders also?
We could through a code change.
Okay.
But that is actually sort of explicitly part of the definition of landscape materials that are allowed. Again, this is all outside of that 3-foot clear zone.
Right.
And I say 3-foot clear zone, there's also cases when a driveway is limited in size that the required clear zone is actually 6 feet. That's one of the nuances of the ordinance. What I will say is no matter what we're doing regarding enforcement, we're going to start with an education campaign. we are intending to make sure people are clearly understanding before we step up to warnings, and then finally, give some grace period for compliance, and then would move into code enforcement actions, which even then, we would issue a formal warning, a warning that involves a fine, or a notice of violation that involves a fine, as well. So we were going to sort of escalate enforcement actions, but start with education.
So Jeremy, when we have a situation like we discussed in our workshop where a house is being under construction or a substantial amount of construction being done on a street, that before we issue a final CO to that property or TCO to that property, that they're going to replace the sod that they've damaged around around the neighbors' homes as well?
Correct. That's what we do. There's a certain amount of right-of-way work that we look at around any construction site, including the drainage. And a lot of this we monitor ongoing. We don't typically require them to maintain the sod in perfect condition throughout the duration of construction because it's not practical. The challenge is that there are locations where sod's probably not viable due to the frequency of parking. So even though our code currently requires that only sod be permitted in those locations, other people, we've made interpretations in the past that gravel is also a landscape material. So we would actually like to formalize that and come back to you with a couple of code amendments to specify that, gravel is allowed in the 3-foot or 6-foot zone, and actually then, come up with a specification of a quality installation for gravel, one that's not going to get kicked out onto the asphalt as frequently, that's not going to cause other maintenance issues. So there's a couple steps to the resolution, but we do intend to come back with some formal code changes as well.
Is it feasible in this, for this impact zone, let's say, of this construction that's happening, to take before and after type pictures of the surrounding houses to make sure that that CO is not then given to that?
Yeah, we typically do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the normal duration of construction if you're starting from pilings?
Included, because we have to include demolition as well.
Okay.
So it's probably close to 2 years.
At least.
On the high, 2 years on the high side, or?
I'd say that's average. Yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily track that, but
Right.
it's pretty typical.
That feels about right.
When things are going, like, the averages get skewed because when a project goes poorly, finance
So
issues.
maybe could you think of, in this drafting, maybe, since you're talking about 2 years, is it, can you get a replacement after 1 year, or some kind of rock, and then at the final, do it again? Because 2 years is a long time.
It is, and that is 100% one of the challenges here. We wouldn't be, I don't think we'd be having this issue with everyone sort of coming up with our own countermeasures if not for the amount of construction. So, look, I think something that works very well on the particular site is we always have them do gravel 57 rock, which is a specific type of rock that can take the abuse pretty well. We always have them install that in the swale.
That's on the construction site.
At the construction site. So we'll have to give it a thought.
Maybe expand it to surrounding.
To think about if it makes sense to expand it and and how to implement that.
How feasible is it, Mike, to add even more deterrence to creating that level of impact?
I think what the biggest challenge is we have a neighbor who immediately after we had the workshop took her things down, and she's sitting in the gallery here, and she emailed me, she emailed all of us actually right away because somebody drove across.
She followed the rule.
She drove across the road. So
literally, I think 2 days later, or one.
Yeah. So
the next day. 1 day.
1 day. But the reason why I bring this up is that she needs to have some means and method to go to somebody to say, hey, how are we going to address this? And I don't know how we're going to be the cops here because this sounds like a really complicated problem.
Yeah, and look, this is a challenge. That maybe it was a construction worker in that case. Yeah. And it also could have been a neighbor who had a guest over.
It could have been anyone.
Yeah. And you know, when we're administering a construction site, we can set parameters and rules and things, but they're not all going to be construction sites. Now, that is one of the changes we want to come back with, is so that if there's a clear and easy path forward for people to install gravel as a replacement for sod in their clear zones, if they so desire, if this is a repeated problem.
The other situation that we'd like you to consider is there are cases where, for example, with the farmer's market, and you know, the neighbors are innocent bystanders of a very, you know, a successful thing. The community likes it and supports it, but yeah, if you're living across from it, you've got a peculiar situation there. Think about what could we do to address those kind of situations. That's really not, you know, normal as opposed to the rest of the things that we look at here.
Yeah, you know, this becomes also, maybe there is a temporary prohibition on parking in certain areas. So, you know, I'm making work for our police.
There are very specific things that they're going to enforce, you know, right off the bat after the education campaign. But Jeremy's exactly right. And when these guys are out in the field, they're going to see more of what we're all talking about, and hopefully come back with some good recommendations on how to deal with it. The other component to this, though, is also this is going to be done in conjunction with police. You know, obviously they're not going to. Well, they might be moving boulders. I don't know. But they definitely will be enforcing.
Code already moves boulders.
Yeah. They will be enforcing the parking more. Really, just making sure people truly understand how you're supposed to park, how you're not supposed to park. Again, start as an educational campaign and then begin to ticket if necessary.
All right.
All right. So I did
Ceci wants
get clear direction on the posts and ropes and chains and things, wanting to remove those from being landscape materials.
Okay. Ceci's got a question for you. So,
Just wanted to say, there was a happy ending to I sent pictures to the contractor. He called me.
Nice.
Hopefully, my little barrier things came back immediately. but they're still there. But I am getting my grass replaced.
Well done, Ceci. Good job.
Tomorrow.
Excellent.
My neighbor, who have the same problem.
What's the name of that contract?
He's elected to wood gravel.
there you go.
Responsible contracting. I like it.
All right.
Just want to make sure you know you're heard, that's all.
Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item, under reports and recommendations, the village manager's report.
Anything in here that's,
Mr. Mayor, I think I'd like to have the CFO come up, just give a brief update on the property tax reform and where the Florida legislature is.
Good evening. So a couple of weeks ago, the Florida House passed House Bill 203. If you guys remember, a few months ago, I gave you a list of about 8 separate proposals that were on consideration for the House floor. So one of the twists to this was on the House floor, it actually got amended to be much more aggressive than was originally proposed. If you remember, the original proposal was a phase out of property taxes over 10 years. It's going to be $100,000 a year over 10 years. The amendment then said, let's just do this all in year one and eliminate for homestead properties immediately. So obviously, much bigger impact than we had originally estimated on the village. So if that were to pass, it would be about $11 million impact in our budget, which is a third of our ad valorem revenue and about a quarter of our total revenue in the budget. That being said, it appears, and our representatives who are following this and monitoring believes the Senate is not interested in any of those proposals because I think it is so aggressive. There's not really an appetite to move it. So the manager and I, along with our lobbyists, are monitoring what's going on at both the House and Senate level, whether they call a special session or not, and we'll keep bringing back updates as to what the Senate will most likely bring forward for referendum. What we are kind of hearing is probably one of two different, and this is just speculation, one of two items, either an additional 25,000 homestead exemption or a percentage based off the market value for homesteaded properties reduction. So we're thinking it's going to go one of those two ways. We don't know, but we will come back with any updates to keep you guys abreast.
The session ends on Friday,
The
and
13th, yeah.
it will not finish on time. And the problem is you're going to have special session for the budget because the budget's not done. You're going to have a special session for redistricting that they had said before. Special session on property taxes, and
Special session of all the leftover legislation.
Yeah.
It's not
Special session, have a special
yeah.
session.
So even though it sounds like we're going in the right direction, we have a special session, anything can happen and any deals can get cut. So it's still a bad situation for cities like ours that depend on ad valorem taxation. And a lot of the things that we talked about here tonight, we couldn't do if something like this would take away all our ad valorem tax.
Can I reiterate it, Mr. Mayor? So, you know, if you go back and look at it, I won't go into gross detail about it, but really, if most of our budget, as you all know, 20 million of it is public safety. Just about none of what we talked about tonight could be done. And I just want to make sure that's clear. Just about
Yeah,
none of what was on.
because you have to hold harmless the public,
Fire and police.
police and fire budget.
For all the right reasons. But
Yep.
yeah, all this other stuff that we're talking about here, we wouldn't be able to do.
While you're up there, take advantage of asking you, as in my ask, what's a good budget update so far?
Sure. And I think in talking with the manager, what we want to do is really go high level at the strategic retreat this year and talk about not just our annual budget, but looking at a lot of the major projects and initiatives. I know just recently discussion about underground utilities and whether we looking at a bigger 5 or 10-year horizon to say, where's the village going to be? Which kind of these projects can we undertake? What is the impact if we have to prioritize, et cetera? So that's kind of the focus. I don't have a full presentation today, but this is what we're working on for the strategic plan retreat, to really look big picture and not just a one-year snapshot. So kind of looking out to 5 or 10 years, because there are going to be some difficult decisions that are coming up for the council to make. So I think for you guys to get an understanding of what the millage rate would look like, what fees would look like, how we're structuring these, how the debt composition will look as well, will be really helpful in making these kind of decisions going forward.
Okay, so far, our first 4 months, what's the data look like?
So as you know, these things are not linear. First 4 months, obviously, we get most of our property taxes. I was looking at the statistics, 72% paid in November. If you remember, that's when the 4% discount, if you pay by November 30th, 72% paid within November, and the next 15% by December. So the majority of our revenue actually comes in at the beginning of the year. So you cannot project that out to say the next 8 months will look the same. But you know, strong revenue to budget performance. I'll have more data when we do the full presentation, but no alarm bells and standard as we predicted.
All right. Let's go. Mr. Sardinius, you have an item that you wanted to discuss?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. So the first thing I'd like to do is thank the Educational Advisory Committee and their dedication and thoughtfulness throughout this entire process. The majority of the team members on this advisory board have been on now for about 2 years. Spent a lot of time contextually trying to understand what the history of our school system has been here on Key Biscayne, including some big wins, which our very own Councilmember Frank Kaplan was a big part of with Mast Academy. We recognize that over the vast few years, we've had a great partnership with the village and Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and I'll take you back a little bit in history. Just last year, we had a situation with Mast Academy whereby many of our own residents were not allowed entrance into Mast Academy, did not get received or applications were not accepted into Mass Academy due to a simple error, clerical error on the side of Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And I applaud Miami-Dade County Public Schools for coming to the very next council meeting, explaining to us that, and taking accountability for that situation. That situation now has offered an opportunity to come closer to Miami-Dade County Public Schools and start to identify what Robert Dezoglu, as the chair of the Educational Advisory Board, pointed out. And while there are some alarming things, this was an intentional ringing of the bell. It was a ringing of the bell partially because, yes, 64% of Miami-Dade County Public Schools are A schools. We're considered an A school. Then the question is, what should excellence look like for our community? You know, in my tenure with the EAB, not only as a member, but now the liaison, I've learned something that's been validated over and over again. Our public system is an incredible system. There are excellent people coming out of that system, but the system does not work in a silo. It works well when the community gets involved. It works well when the parents get involved. It works well with the community government gets involved, and it works well when the board gets involved. And I think this is an opportunity now for us to get involved. And so this really is an opportunity for me to ask the council to seriously consider and prioritize our very own public school. We heard stats. We heard we were 13 out of 89 schools. Yes, at one time we were 1 or 2, but there were much less than 89 schools. So everything needs to be put into context. We are still an A school. You know, in my own personal experience touring middle schools throughout the county, throughout the region, throughout the district, I got to meet 5 different schools that were in our district offering magnet programs, and every director claimed that the best prepared students coming into their programs came from our K-8 school. That is something to be very proud of. That is something that I wasn't sure of. I had felt it in my gut, but luckily enough, my own daughter went to Carver, is now going to Carver, and is being very successful because of the education she received here. But it does need a little bit of love. We are slipping in the standards. We are slipping in science. We are slipping in math. Definitely our facilities need a little bit of work. And so when we talk about some of the things that are workable, these are real challenges, but they're also solvable. But they are not solvable in a silo. And so I would like to ask, and I've had a meeting with the manager. I'm very pleased to say that the manager also feels that this is a priority for our community. I would like to lean a little bit on Frank's experience in finding ways to collaborate with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and certainly our ability to get close to them over what's happened at Mass Academy and what continues to happen in the under-enrollment in our middle school is something that everybody is now aware of. Back in June, as a result of what happened in Mass Academy, we collectively requested a meeting with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and we had 13 leaders from the district come to our community and hold almost a full-day workshop on defining, first of all, identifying what our issues were, what our challenges were, and then also discussing what some of those fixes could be. What was interesting was that everybody in the room basically said that anything is on the table. But what happened very soon after that was a very, very incredible comment from our superintendent or deputy superintendent of schools that said, look, there are a lot of things that we can do, but until we know what our community wants, we shouldn't move forward. And as a result of that, the EAB created the survey, had 264 respondents, and we learned a lot. What we learned about is that our school does not have a clear identity. We learned that our facilities need help. We learned that ESC and special needs require some assistance. And as a result of that particular result, we were able to create a pre-K ESC class that we're very proud of. Furthermore, the district came with some funding and allowed us to start a program. The program is dedicated to communications. It is digital storytelling. It is broadcasting. It is public speaking, but it is just a beginning point of what the district is willing to do should we get involved and identify what the community wants. I'm opening this up so that we can all have a bit of an open discussion about getting on the same page that education is a priority, number one, that our children are important. We have to set them up for success. And I think the district knows that when they partner with us, they win. A perfect example is Mass Academy. But Mass Academy did also have some unintended consequences. And so those are things that we have to deal with now as well. Ms. Stoner, Councilmember Stoner mentioned an idea that came up in that workshop, and certainly that was an idea, a collaboration, but not just with Mast Academy, but potentially universities, local universities. Our very own principal has a relationship with FIU. FIU has an incredible technology program. They've already showed interest in potentially partnering with us. And so there are very many people in our ethos that are looking to see what it is that we want to do, but they're looking for us to lead that directive. And that comes from listening to our parents, for our parents to get involved, for our students to get involved, and for us to find programming that speaks to what the children want. Furthermore, that will make them successful in the next level. So we don't have all the answers today. I've been working on this for a long time. I have some ideas for sure. But certainly I'm not audacious enough to know what those solutions are. And what I'm looking for here is for every person here on this council to begin reaching out to our constituency, to listening to them, to see what it is the challenges are, and to collectively come together with an idea. And this is not a small fix by any means. To put things into perspective, we've made a huge investment in Mast Academy. And I think it's time for us to pivot and look at our very own community school, our very own elementary school, our very own K-8 that's right here in our backyard, because I think sometimes the value is lost at proximity for our parents, and the opportunity to walk your child to school from K to 8 is huge, a huge advantage. It's a huge advantage for the community, for the parents, and for the kids. And so what I'm asking is for everybody's help here to really put their brains together.
Are we cannibalizing our own program?
So,
Because, I mean.
so it's not that simple, Michael, because yes, to a certain extent we may be. However, there's a lot more competition than there has been. And I think we all know, and maybe the elephant in the room is that, you know, legislature is really making it difficult for public schools to continue to survive the way they are today. And so public schools, it's a big machine. It's slow to move. But in a microcosm of a community like ours, if we can get together with them, that we can make it happen.
The only reason why I'm asking the question is that if we have the vast majority of the kids who want to go to Mast at 6th grade.
Right.
Okay, and that's the school that we've effectively funded.
So I might explain.
Let me
Yeah,
finish
go
for a
ahead.
second. Because I know that like the private school system, they stopped having a 6th grade. St. Stephen, St. Philip's, all the private schools were feeders to Ransom and the other private schools. They all stopped the 6th grade program because those schools had 6th grade programs, and then so they just pivoted and went to 5th grade. Would it make sense to focus on 1 through 6 and let those kids go to 7 and 8 at the other campus? No, I'm just asking a question.
That's absolutely an option.
So that you really fully invest in those other classes.
Yep.
And concentrate those needs there, and then have the natural occurrence go that they go to the 7 and 8.
Well, what do you do with the
So if you-
kids who aren't going into those programs that don't get into those programs? We still have to.
So
That's what the other schools, Cambridge is for.
So all good discussions?
It's just
Yeah.
a question.
It's
I
also
know- I
an
know
idea,
nothing
and it was
about
certainly
this.
thrown out that day during our workshop as well. I think first we have to go back and understand what the initial challenge was. We had actually quite the opposite, an overcrowding problem here at the K-8, which is what spawned the idea of what can we do. At the same time, the district was looking for a way to expand their own Mast Academy, their own school. And so we had two bodies that had a similar challenge. They got together and resolved it. And they resolved it by coming together, collaborating, and creating middle school classes there and a magnet program. And that magnet program was dedicated to Key Biscayne residents. 1,100 students are guaranteed entry into Mast Academy, but that allocation of seats has never really been reviewed again since that moment. And I think actually the easier route is looking at that allocation while at the same time strengthening the program here. Because again, the value of having proximity, allowing your child to go to school within 2 blocks of your home is very different than having to go to Mast Academy. And I would venture to say, and when I speak to the parents, if they knew the programming at this middle school was excellent, they would always, number one, opt to remain here, and we could then potentially reallocate those seats that are in the middle school at Mast Academy to the high school. What does that do? 2 things happen. Programming increases, allocation goes to high school. this false notion that you have to get in early in order to secure your seat in high school goes away. So I'm not saying that to illustrate that your option is better or worse than what I'm talking about. I'm doing it to illustrate that there's so many moving parts. And before going to a place where we're shutting down potentially grades here that actually could have an opportunity to flourish with good programming, I would like us to focus on what the problem is at the root cause here, and that is this downward spiral that Robert mentioned. With the exodus of students goes funding.
Yeah.
Funding only comes with enrollment, but enrollment only comes with good programming, and programming is lost when funding is lost. And so we've been in this downward spiral for quite some time, and it's taken almost a decade to get us to where we are. And so that slow roll, we have an opportunity to really reverse it very quickly, actually. And when I say quickly, there was a plan there that talks about 1 to 5 years. You know, I've mulled this plan over, I've looked at dollars and where it should be spent, and it should be a little bit of everything. It should be programming, it should be support for the teachers, it should be facilities. It should be for after-school activities, it should be for sports, it should be for life-type skills programming that allows these kids to actually develop something that is much different or augments what they're seeing during the day. And so the district came with something already, very quickly, quicker than I would have anticipated with this communications program. Now, is that the one thing that's gonna fix it? No, I don't believe it is. I think it's gonna take much, much, much more. But it's gonna be a concerted effort.
Oscar, I have a comment. I just want to make, my observation is that while math does cause some brain drain, there is an enormous stress on the children that age to go into, because of the stipends that are being given out by the state, to go anywhere.
Correct.
And that's, so it's not only masked. And I think
100%.
you are right on by saying we have to have a stellar program, because when we have a stellar program that we can brag about and that we have results that are proven, kids are gonna stay here because it's better to stay here.
I mean, the competition is fierce.
Oh,
But you look at a Carver, fully enrolled. Fully enrolled, even performing better than charter schools and performing better than private academies, preparatory academies. Why? Because the programming is there. They have a spectacular language program that leads very well into IB. It's funny, I did a tour at Coral Gables Senior High with their IB program. 90% of the IB kids that are there came from Carver.
Sure.
And they're fully prepared to go to that next level. You know, anecdotally speaking, I know a handful of kids that are graduating from Gables that are getting into schools like University of Florida, getting into Ivy League schools because they've been in that program. And I think that all that's really lacking is a unified vision of what this school should look like, can look like, will look like if we all get together.
The campuses needs.
100%.
I mean, the physical plant needs a lot of work.
100%.
And I mean, that's how the partnership worked, Frank. I mean, right, wasn't it back in the day, we put up the money to build the
Yeah,
plant?
but this
all
is a long time ago now.
Yeah, no, I understand.
That project was critical at the time, but it's at the end of its useful life, pretty much.
2012, was it? Or?
And maybe not end, maybe it just needs an adjustment, you know? It could be a level of adjustment.
Well, the bathrooms and the air conditioning system is not at the end of its useful life.
That's true.
But one of the things that certainly has changed is interior space utilization is very different now than it was then. You see this at iPrep.
Yeah.
And schools like that. There's much more emphasis on breakout areas, conversation pits, shared workspaces than people didn't think in those
The
terms.
classrooms haven't changed. I mean, my daughter was there
Some have not.
2 years ago,
That's
and
correct.
the classroom is still the same.
I think there's something to be said for timing as well. We have an incredible administration that is open and ready to do
So what do you
anything.
You need money?
It's going to be a combination of money. It's going to be a combination of will. It's going to be a combination of parents getting together. It's going to be a combination of understanding what the parents want. It's going to be an understanding of where these kids are being fed into and what programs are being fed into so that we can prepare preparation programming here that allows those directors from those high schools to say exactly what the middle school directors were saying about the kids coming out of the elementary school. I would like for principals from Coral Gables Senior High and everywhere around the district to say the best prepared kids are coming from Key Biscayne.
Sure.
They're saying it about our elementary school. There's no reason why they can't be saying it about our middle school.
So what do we want to do, workshop? How do you want to do this?
So I'd like to direct the manager to start working with the EAB and to make this a priority. I think a workshop would probably work, but Steve, maybe you want to interject and say a few words about what your perspective is. I know you've been working a little bit on this as well.
So thank you, Vice Mayor, I appreciate it. Yes, I mean, obviously, you know, you, me, and Robert have been mowing this over the last couple of weeks, but the last year, to be honest. And there's no doubt that education is important in this community. I mean, education in and of itself, but also the value it brings to the community as a whole. This is a complex issue, and I believe that this community has demonstrated time and time again that it can come together and address complex issues. It takes resources, it takes time, it takes efforts, it takes motivation, it takes talent. Maybe the time is, like you said, Vice Mayor, sit down with the EAB, come up with that plan. Obviously, I'd like you to be a part of it. Obviously, you're the liaison to that. And whether we want to workshop it or come back to the council, maybe that's the way we move.
Are you going to publish the survey results?
They were published.
Okay.
They're out there. Yeah, I can share them with you too. The EAB has it.
Be interesting.
I'll have them set in. So I thought they send it to all of us, but if they didn't, I'll have them send it again.
Maybe I didn't see it.
If I could add
As
just one
far
more.
as leaning on me, it's a raging yes, of course.
I want to add one more thing that I think what the Vice Mayor has said, and I think it's really important, timing. This is really, this is timing. It
is time.
Not just in the state of the middle school, but it's also in how the district is paying attention to us and also the talent leadership that we have at the KBK right now.
You know, Robert mentioned it, when we get together, we make things happen. The district knows it, the EAB knows it, the administration knows it, and I think the parents deserve it.
In terms of the timing, the other thing, I don't think it's been mentioned, but our district representative, Maritere Rojas, is the chair of the school system. So I think, yeah, if we can put all these things together, hopefully we can make some progress towards improving our children's education. And I think this is a good start. We'll leave it to you to come back and suggest what other steps. And I think the important thing is to gather that vision, whatever that is. I don't think any of us have anything preconceived, so we can figure out where we want to go and how we're going to get there, and look at other resources other than ours too, to see how we can make this situation better.
I encourage you, I don't know if you all noticed it when it was up there. Robert kind of slid through it quickly, but he actually had a vision statement on there.
Yes.
I'm not sure why he went through it so quickly. I was reading it because it was right here. Maybe just go back and look at it. Probably needs some tweaking, but it was a pretty good one as we went through. He didn't talk about it, but I like the words.
Okay.
Consensus of council.
Consensus of council.
Thank you.
Let me do a couple of things that I need to do to keep these committees running. I'm recommending for the EAB, Marcus Lepre. I'm recommending to the EAB, these are open slots, Jeanette Tomasello. And we are reappointing,
Oneida Mendia.
yes,
And Laura Terran Zapata.
Mendia and Lauren Terran Zapata.
Consensus of council.
Agreed.
Okay.
Thank you.
There's an opening on the pension board, and I am happy to appoint Danielle Gonzalez. Danny, longtime resident of Key Biscayne, worked for Wachovia for many years at a very high level. I think it'll be a good addition to that group of people.
Good.
Consensus of council.
Agreed.
Yes.
Thank you. The next item,
Mr. Vasquez, you want to do the compost? I see is the.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you guys a reprieve. I'm actually gonna be, with the compost, what I want to do is I'd like to defer that to, and I bought a lot of items this week.
Okay.
I'd like to defer that to the Sustainability Committee, to Councilmember Bracken's leadership on that, but certainly.
The compost lady's back there.
Where's Helen? Hi, Ellen. I'm sorry, I kept, but I sent you a text, so we're just gonna move it. We're gonna move it, thank you. It's really more to talk about the logistics of how we compost and everything, but I think that's probably a better, more suited forum to do that.
If I could, Councilmember, in anticipation, when we did this, we did reach out to the SAB, and they'd be happy to set up a visit to the compost center for
Yeah,
council members.
it's, yeah, we can talk about that. I'll see if I can, maybe the next agenda item, I'll request if that could be placed on the Sustainability Committee for the next agenda item of the committee.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item, you go that easily.
You have just a few, so.
I just have a couple. Not really. I'm gonna go through them quickly, but I really want to focus on the real big ones here. First of all, I want to really thank the administration for the diligent work that they have done and as it relates to pulling the permit for Biscayne Bay. I know that there's been a lot of fluctuation, a lot of flux happening with the permitting, the regulations, the requirements, maintaining and ensuring that it's stormwater that's discharged into Biscayne Bay has the right water quality. And I've been a strong advocate for defending the quality of the water that gets discharged into Biscayne Bay. But there is something that maybe it's a one-off. Maybe it's something that happened in the process that we were doing it, and I know you guys were pushing for a permit, but there was this pretty significant discussion happening related to water quality, not only at the level of the county, but also at the level, I believe, at the state level. And I'd like to understand that this is not directed to the administration. This is really directed to council. How do you see ourselves when we get into these discussions? Because what we have right now, like I said, we have a permit, and I said it the last time, we're not compliant. I apologize for that. We are compliant based on the old permit, but based on the new stormwater permit that the county has adopted, we don't appear to be. The stormwater ordinance, excuse me, the stormwater ordinance that the county has adopted, the new pavement ordinance, which is very stringent. I don't think any municipality can really meet those requirements. Nevertheless, it is, at this point, the law in the county, and it's not.
No, we do have a permit under the new ordinance. Yes.
You do have but you do have a permit based on, but it's, okay, let's understand this. You have a permit based on the new ordinance, but are you meeting all the requirements that specifically that the ordinance states for water quality?
Yes, in the sense that we are maximizing the load reductions that we can get with the technology that we're planning on implementing into the design. Short of going to the maximum technology, which is membrane filtration, which I don't think anybody on council necessarily has the interest in spending that kind of money. We're doing everything short of that.
Okay.
And based on that implementation of those technologies, we are in compliant with.
So
the
what
new
you're
ordinance.
basically saying is that we've done the best that we can. We are going to meet the requirements to the best of our ability and capacity, and we've gotten a permit to proceed on that. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, now, but that's an administrative position, and I respect that because you guys are responsible for moving the projects forward. My question is a legislative decision, and it's really a decision that involves us as Key Biscayne's representatives of Key Biscayne. What's our environmental identity? I mean, are we champions of keeping Key Biscayne clean, or are we want to go ahead and see if we can get through with a couple of, loopholes here and there, or maybe it's still being discussed and we have an opportunity to come in early. I just don't see, the administration has done the right job, and I want to emphasize that, but council needs to be aware that we're really not meeting the expectations of the county. That-
Fernando, won't some of that be addressed when the council makes a decision about how we're gonna go with stormwater?
No, because the
No?
permit has been issued already. They have a permit.
But we may not proceed on the basis of that permit.
Yeah, it does, irrespective of that, I think the question is, it transcends more into outfalls and discharging into the bay. That's my main concern. At the end of the day, I mean, we have a lot of pieces moving. We are currently discussing two options for design, which I think one of them really provides that solution that we're talking about. But for future projects and a future position of us as a municipality, as a stakeholder of Biscayne Bay, I think that we have to have a different level
So
as council.
are you requesting that we establish a policy?
I'm requesting that we, effective immediately, we become part of that discussion. I don't think this is really, we should, and again, without alluding, this is not the administration's fault, but I think we should have been part of that discussion all over, because we should have elevated that discussion at the level of council, not at the level of the administration. What do we want to discharge? What are we ready to accept? What are we not ready to accept? And we really haven't gotten that. We just got to say, we did what we could. But that's not a discussion at the council level. That's not a discussion for, the future of Key Biscayne. That's a council level discussion. It's not an administrative discussion. They've done what they've done.
Talking about policy decisions.
I'm talking policy, yes. And also, to throw that off, I was just reading about it, and there's a House bill. I was just asking, and I may be off on this one, but I'm reading some stuff that concerns me a little bit about buying mitigation credit or discharge credits in the same watershed. I don't know how Biscayne Bay will play into that. I know that there is a bill. Can you tell us a little bit about that so we know what's happening with 848?
Well, looking at it here, it looks like it's been called for special order calendar tomorrow in the House. Believe it might have passed the Senate.
What's that mean, Chad?
It means that it's getting close to being adopted by the House, and then.
Then it becomes law?
I believe because the Senate's already passed it. It doesn't, well, then it will be presented to the governor, who can decide whether to veto or go into law.
And what does it say?
I'm not as familiar with it as
Yeah,
Councilmember Vasquez. Maybe he could speak towards it. During the meeting, I was looking at it with him.
It's kind of new. We just kind of caught it, and that was just, and that really had to.
But I'll say that regardless of what this may say, I think Durham is going to control what a lot of what our environmental regulations are in the county. I think that FDEP has delegated a lot of that authority to Durham, and I think Durham's standards can always be more stricter, and a lot of times they are.
It's federal
So,
Durham or
this is state.
State
This is
Durham.
state. So I don't know. I mean, this is something to look at. We'll see if it actually gets adopted and what impact it can
Yeah,
have.
I think that the concept of this addition, I think, on this bill is buying credits within the watershed. So similar to what you do with wetland mitigation, there's some, and you're mitigating a wetland and you don't have the capacity to do that, you can get credits from somebody else that's mitigating it within a certain area. And I think that would happen. The question is, and this would be more subject to the watershed that is going to that water body. And that's where my concern is. The watershed that's going, in my opinion, into Biscayne Bay is not just Key Biscayne. It's the Miami River, it's all that stuff. So the question is, are we going to get into a credit buying and all that? I'm very strong in my position that we have to eliminate all outfalls, possibility of not discharging directly to the bay. And I would like to have a policy discussion eventually as we move forward with these projects and as we move forward with these alternatives. I don't want to put council on the spot. I think this is something that we need to look into. But we need to understand what is our environmental identity. What do we want with our stormwater system discharging into Biscayne Bay? That's a decision that we need to make at the council level.
Policy decision.
It's a policy decision. So I will bring the item back eventually, and I would ask that we explore it further as we move with other alternatives.
Okay.
That was it. See, I made it easy.
That's
Mr.
good.
Mayor.
That's
See,
good.
I always do.
Excellent.
Don't I? I got one more.
Okay?
Well, I got a few more, but I'm gonna go, yeah, I'll be brief, and I'll try to be as quickly as possible. The other thing I wanted to talk about, which is also critical, and I'll get into the other ones. Let's go into 8, because 8 is another one that I also would like to kind of put on the table here for a future discussion. Given all the uncertainties that we have with our infrastructure, given all the uncertainties that we have in Tallahassee, I think it's time that we set up a committee, and the concerns from the residents really about whether it is there or not, there's a perception of transparency, there's a perception of what we moving forward in the right direction with our infrastructure. I know we can't address every single issue, but I think it's important to really practice as much transparency as we can. The other day, I attended Miami Beach Finance and what we call it economic resiliency. I put that here, but that's really, I saw a forum where people spoke openly and projects were being able to be discussed with clarity and delving deeper into the financial issues. I think that that's important. I think that's something that we don't just want to reserve to ourselves. I think it's important that the residents have a say. People that could be experts in finance, we don't have to bring, or infrastructure and finance, we don't have to have all the knowledge here. But I'd like to be able to have a place and a forum where the residents and members of this board can be part of that. That addresses infrastructure and finance. I mean, look at what we're going through with the Big Dig. I would have much rather been able to have a committee that talks about this in detail, just like what we do with the ad hoc. We're addressing only infrastructure, but we're not addressing financing. And now we have the potential threat in Tallahassee of affecting our millage rate capacity. I think it's time. I think it's time that we really provide some transparency into this and have a incorporate.
You're not suggesting that we aren't being transparent?
No, I am not suggesting that at all, Mayor. I think, in fact, I would say the contrary.
Right.
But I think that given the fact that we are spending a lot of money, and given the fact that we've got hundreds of millions out there of dollars, I think that it's certainly raising eyebrows, and I want to make sure that we are doing everything that we possibly can to provide the residents with that level of comfort. I'm not sure what that vehicle is. I leave it to council. Again, no decision today.
Okay.
But it's, again, something that I'd like to talk about eventually.
We can, absolutely.
Okay.
AI?
AI, yeah, let's talk about something fun. What are we doing with AI? I mean, AI is all over the place. How do we use it? Are we doing anything interesting with AI? Can you give us a little update, Mr. Manager?
Sure, I think we gave you one in January, but we'll go ahead and have Benjamin come up and let you know what we're doing as we're trying to monitor the ever-changing industry.
Yeah. I mean, is there any cool stuff that you guys can talk about that you're doing that we should be aware of?
Yeah, so let me break this up, because the last update in January, we're still kind of in the research phase. We've met with a lot of companies and advisors, and everyone's trying to obviously push products. It's the hot new big thing. We want to be cautious in our approach. I mean, there's a lot of companies we've been advised with are hot today, and they'll be gone within 6 months from now. So in the meantime, while we meet with folks and trying to figure out the exact direction we're going to go, we are utilizing it, at least in some of our departments. I know in my department, we automated some of our accounts payable process by using one of the AI providers. So there's little quick wins we've been able to hit. What we're trying to look at is a enterprise-wide solution. One of the challenges we have in municipal government is a lot of these companies come pitch for a for-profit company where they're able to fix their main, business operations, whether it be medical billing or an attorney's practice. We have so many different businesses in government. It's hard to figure out that there's not really a profit motive. We're looking at it as how do we deliver better services or become more efficient within our operations. So I'd like to give another update once we decide exactly which avenue we're going to go, but we're still meeting and doing our due diligence on some of these companies that are offering solutions for the public sector.
And what solutions are out there? I mean, what are you finding out that the public sector is using AI for?
So you either have the public sector in other municipalities that I've chatted with, they're either using the same off-the-shelf ChatGPTs, Claudes, Copilot, et cetera. There's other companies that are written from, and they presented at ICMA that are from former guys who worked in municipal government, and they're really tailoring it for government where it's a...
Tell them what ICMA is.
International City Managers Association.
Yes, thank you.
Love the acronyms.
Anyway, the solution is geared towards municipal government where it will use its knowledge database looking at items that go to your council that are on our Laserfiche, which is our public depository of resolutions, ordinances, our city code. So instead of looking at the whole internet and getting confused, it's really looking at the sandbox of only your municipality's formalized documents that have already been vetted by the staff. It's already been vetted by the attorney. It's already been passed by council. So it's geared towards only looking at vetted documents in the government. One of the things that the manager and I were looking at too is we might want to have it look at non-finalized documents. There might be working documents that could add context to something that we're working on. So we're trying to push and see what solution works best for us. I mean, we have, and also training with our own staff and writing our own guidelines of what is an allowable use for AI. We have, you know, within our own staff, we have some folks who have never used it. Maybe they're fearful of what it could do, and others like me who've been using it for over a year now and very comfortable with it and actually seeing the merits of doing it. So we have a training element too, we have a policy writing element, and ultimately we need to find the solution that is gonna work village-wide.
Just to kind of follow on what Benjamin said, if you heard him, there's basically three categories that we're looking at. One is that sandbox that he's talking about. That's controlled data that you keep within a box. You identify very specific and point at that, and you can basically do very many municipal documents off of that. The other one is the open solution, where we would use maybe a Claude, maybe we use, Copilot or something like that, yes. And the third one is trying to find use cases for process optimization. And so those are three things that we're looking at. We've test cased a couple inside of the CFO's office. Forgot you there for a second. But so we're trying to identify those that are most, that can use that the best. And obviously finance has the best, at least cross-industry. We see things coming in building, zoning, and planning. We don't necessarily want to jump on that software too quickly because that might be a bad expense too early. But we're also finding that really setting the conditions is probably where we need to be right now. Data and file management is going to be critical in this, cleaning that up.
Steve, is there a best practices group within the cities, that we have the city group?
Yeah.
Yeah, is there a best AI best
City
practices group?
City of
that-
San Jose has a government AI coalition. I've been following a lot of the stuff that they've been putting out. They put a lot of.
But how about just in Miami-Dade County?
No.
So the city group that we meet with every month.
No, the League of Cities wouldn't do that. There is and we'll go through another.
Florida League does.
Another acumen. There's MDCCMA, which is Miami-Dade County City Management Association.
Okay.
And there's FCCMA. FCCMA has a basic, but look, most of these outsource it to ICMA because obviously they cover the entire nation. And this is the group that they're working with, which is out in Palo Alto, San Jose, as you can imagine why.
Sure.
And they have an amazing resource. In fact, we may even want to send that out to them. Send the council the website there.
Sure,
It
Oh, I
is
thought you
very,
were going
very.
to say send us there.
Well, if you want. Benjamin and I are planning to go, but we just
I'm
can't find the
sure.
time to do it.
But we don't even use the chatbot when we're running these meetings, which seems kind of odd. I mean, I don't understand why that for the clerk we don't have just a chatbot running that would be summarizing the meeting, because that's a sort of standard industry practice on almost every conference call I'm on. Yeah, every conference call I'm on now, there's a chatbot running in the background, and we get an email that basically summarizes the entire conversation, which is pretty useful from an architectural standpoint.
That's definitely on a list of items we've identified that could be utilized by AI, meeting minutes, whether it be this one, whether it be some of the subcommittees too. That's something that we see all the time as well too.
Is there a reason we don't do it because of a legal reason, or just because it's not accessible, or I don't know?
We're in a public meeting here. We can do it here because everyone has an expectation to be recorded.
Right.
Otherwise, we do it many times inside internal meetings.
Yeah,
and
sure.
also-
I think counties have been doing it for years. I think that it's just a matter of making sure that the technology has now gotten to the point where the summaries are accurate, right? It's something the clerk's office could look into.
Along those lines, one of the features I was looking at too is somebody who, and I'm sure you guys do this as well, has to go back to former either meeting minutes or meeting videos to actually catalog some of those older videos where we can just query sometimes we know the result of the vote, but the actual discussion that took place, very helpful when we're bringing items back, or maybe 10 years ago there was a video. and I end up watching it and spending hours trying to find the exact point in time and taking notes. But yeah, there was one of the solutions that will go back through all your old videos and catalog it and give them minutes, and then you can find the information much faster. So it's a pain point for us when we're writing these memos, because we know these things we've discussed them ad nauseum, years past. So.
Those are those three things where I was going down. The three things about setting the condition is that file and data management, because that allows us to point directly at it and find that information. Number two is really analyzing your software and realizing whether it's going to be compatible going forward. Because a lot of this old software just isn't going to work going forward with AI. And thirdly is understanding your architecture, your physical architecture, and how you can expand that and how APIs can connect, not connect, and all that technology. So we're working with that with our IT. That's a heavy lift, because that's a lot of manpower to get that done. But that's really setting the conditions so that information is readily available and usable in a much more optimal way, and just instead of pointing yourself out to the sky and asking for information.
Sure.
Something exciting and something that I'm sure you guys will maximize the use of it. Provide us with an update how you're advancing. It'll be fine.
Okay.
Let's set them that.
Let me take one, so you can catch your breath a minute. Mr. Miranda,
I'll bring one.
tell me how we're doing on Harbor Drive repavement, for God's sakes.
I am pleased to announce that the Miami-Dade County passed approval for the agreement for the JPA. It is sitting in the mayor's office. She has a 10-day window to veto. So it's sitting in her office. We don't expect that she's going to veto it, but once we get that agreement, we're going to be sending them our RFP package, which they have to bless, and then we can put the project out on the street. That's where we're at.
April 15.
Once we have approval from the county to put it out on the street, we will put it on the street.
But you just
We're
told me
ready to
that
go.
it's approved.
The JPA is approved. The joint partnership agreement with the county is approved, so they will be giving us the money. But they have to bless the request for proposal package. So
Okay.
once they bless it, we can put it on the street and receive bids from
I'm going to
contractors.
put this on every meeting, okay?
Yes.
This is got to happen. We this is one of our premier streets, and you drive the thing, it's horrible. And I get complaints all the time about that. Not your fault, but obviously we have been putting off this repavement. And the reason why is because we're getting, what, 95% of the money?
We're approximately, yes.
Yeah.
90%, right.
So they're going to pay 1.9 million, and we'll pay the difference of
Correct.
2.2 or 3,
I believe it's 2.4.
4.
Yeah. There's
That
some items,
includes
there's
the
some items on
circles?
there that we want.
And it's also, it includes the tail that goes all the way down. That's why it's more
Correct.
money. For lack of a better word, the part that goes southeast of Mashta Circle.
Okay.
But
That's
it
not,
doesn't include all the
sorry.
repaving on Mashta Circle and all that stuff, that number.
The circle of Mashta, the limits of the project are at the circle of Mashta. So we would be improving the circle of Mashta also, yes,
Yeah, But all the,
not beyond it.
but not all that, the traffic calming's not part of that scope of work. We have to pay for that extra.
The county doesn't pay for brick paver work.
Right.
So the brick pavers would have to be removed. They only pay for asphalt.
Right.
Correct.
So all the additional work for the traffic calming to remove all the brick pavers, the sand set pavers, all that stuff that we're gonna do, we're gonna replace all that stuff.
Correct.
And we have to pay over and above the number that we're just discussing, correct?
Well, the demolition of the pavers is included in that number. The repaving and the amount of asphalt that goes in is also included. So yes, it's covered.
Okay, so it's all
Yes.
gonna be asphalt,
It's all going to be asphalt.
similar
That's
to
the
what
only
we
thing the
discussed
county
with,
pays for.
similar what we discussed with the tables, correct?
Correct. That is correct.
And this is in our budget, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Vasquez?
Last one, not least. The last one I was going to ask, again, great job, administration. I know the manager communicates periodically with council. That's not the issue here. What I'm trying to do is see if there's a way that we could also have the public access any information that we are being given and perhaps on a weekly basis. In some municipalities, they're called Friday memos, they're called letters to council, letters to commission. I don't see that. I think it would be a great thing to have that so the public can access the clerk's office and they can see what memos are being written to council and what things are being discussed. I think sometimes we get information here at the last minute, nothing wrong, I know you're moving quickly, but I think that also having that information and being aware of what's coming up with preparation, as well as being able to inform the public and have those memos there ready for the public to read and have any viable input, productive input at our meetings. That's what we're here for, not just to hear each other's voices, but also to hear the public. So I suggest and I propose that we establish a form of Friday memos or letters to council from the administration that are issued on a periodic basis and are stored in the clerk's office so that people can access them.
Good, Mr. Manager, why don't you think about that and come back to us? All right.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Last item.
World Cup.
Discussion on the United States 250th anniversary, the village anniversary, and the World Cup.
Okay, so I'm sure most of you know this, but obviously the 250th anniversary of our country coming up on July 4th. In addition to that, it's our 35th anniversary as a village. And we also have the World Cup. So I know that the administration's been working on some of these things, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. And, I would say to you, if, for a little bit of more money, we can do a better 4th of July parade, or we can do a little bit better that, we've got money in reserves. We should think about doing this up as good as we can, because it's such significant anniversaries coming together here. So, is that Todd or you or?
It's Todd, and
Okay.
I'll add some stuff
Committee?
on the funding part.
Do we have not a 4th of July committee, but a 250th, a 35th anniversary of the village committee?
Working with the foundation on that, which we have for the previous anniversaries of the village.
Right.
The 250, we're waiting for the 4th of July Parade Committee to resume their meeting. And we're active on the World Cup with, I'd like to thank the volunteers, Antoine.
Let me, before
Okay.
we go there, Dabika, I think asking your question about the 35th, to be clear,
Okay.
the Key Biscayne Foundation is going to take the lead, and we are working with them on
Okay.
that. So it's kind of a joint partnership. So that is the committee.
Is that celebration going to be akin to celebrations we've had for prior anniversaries, or is it going to be something entirely different?
We don't-
Or
we-
do you know?
We
Okay.
don't know yet. We're still working. I think it's scheduled for September 10th, I believe it is.
Yes. Somewhere early September. yeah.
Okay.
So those, and I'm glad the mayor brought this up, because I think right now is about the time to begin communicating. that sort of thing.
And we got to go full throttle because we're in March. Yeah.
Joe, what you're saying is you want to step it up a notches, basically.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And we want to allocate, we obviously have to allocate funds to step it up. So where does that come
Well,
from?
for example, I'm just making this up here. Let's say we do so much for the 4th of July. Oh, maybe we bring in a drone show on top of that or
Yeah,
something.
I think we should step it up for sure.
Yeah. Or put more money into the parade or whatever the committee thinks of, I think that would be a good idea considering the confluence of these three things here.
Did you say the anniversary, is the event for the anniversary going to be on September 10th, or that's just the date of the
It
anniversary?
is September 13th, which has been historically celebrated. Frank can tell you why, probably better than I can. But
what happened to June 18th?
I'll let you.
We're gonna want to get home tonight. Another time.
Okay.
Apparently, it was the first council meeting. But anyway, Frank can say the story much
All
better.
right, September gives us more time to.
Yeah, it also is. But that's the date. So it's September 13th. But the date that we're looking at is to do it on September 10th.
Ah, okay.
You're looking to do it on September
13th is
9th.
actually a Sunday, I believe.
Yeah, well, it's Rosh Hashanah on the 12th and 13th, so that,
And maybe that's why too. Yeah.
right. But I was just wondering, because the 8th, the 9th or the 10th is a
Thursday.
Thursday, which is a weekday. Okay.
So again, this, we're all just, this is within the last month, we're all putting this together, working with the foundation, working with the 4th of July committee. Todd's about to tell you about our World Cup committee, that we're putting these teams together.
We're going to have a messy day.
One great idea that the committee comes up with to kind of wrap these all together is we're going to order a soccer jersey with the village seal. Says Islanders on the back. 35 is the player number. Established 1991 on the back with America 250 on the shirt. And we're going to
Sorry, you said a softball jersey?
Good, good, good.
But it kind of wraps all these together. And
All right,
I
I
think it's
like
going to
that.
be a popular item in the community. But we're working on venues, we're working on events specific to the World Cup, and that's coming together nicely.
And I do, the individual does not want me to mention his name, but we did get a substantial donation from a resident to do this World Cup stuff. So Todd, you better do it right.
Great,
Yes.
great.
Yes.
Greatly appreciate it. We thank you.
All right, try to get you out of here by 9, but not too bad. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, I can have a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, moved.
Moved second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.